Hey everybody, happy Memorial Day weekend. Hope you guys are having a hot dog and beer with all your families and friends. It's Comics Covered, where Matt and I, co-founders of CoverPrice.com, talk about cool things in the comic book world. And today we are joined by none other than Mr. Big Clutch, who is an amazing person. He hosted our giveaway over at C2E2. He has a special surprise for everyone watching today that we'll talk about in a second. But
make sure you're on. Yeah, but this was a pretty good one. So
yeah, this is surprised us. We're like, oh, okay, that's amazing. So Matt, how are you?
Good, to the point where I think both Clutch and I forgot that we were doing the show tonight. And I was like, because you get one day off and it's like world stops, right? Like you go back into like your own thing.
I took it to the limit. I literally had 1 minute to join, and I was like, "Oh crap! Are they even on? I don't even know if they're on." So it's worked out.
Clutch, I got that text from Matt, and he's like, "You cool for tonight?" I'm like, "Yup." I haven't even set up my studio yet, so this is my first stream from the new office studio space. So I literally was throwing stuff up on this wall behind me like half an hour ago. So
oh my god, let's see. I like that 181 right there. That's pretty cool. And Voltron. Yeah, you got all the good stuff.
0.5.
Nice. I dig it. So, Matt, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about the wonderful world of variants. So there's so many conversations in this whole ecosystem of comic books of people who love variants, and then people who absolutely hate variants, and people that want to see variants go away. And people think that, there's a lot of people who think that the variant market is destroying the current market. And then there's people who love variants, but they hate some variants. Like, there's this nonstop conversation around the variant market. And all of them are valid conversations because, we've seen if you hyper focus on conventions, especially the big ones, these conventions have gone from maybe 100 or so exclusives per convention, jumping up to 600-700 exclusives for a convention. And even while some of those are kind of repeat covers, you'll see some of them that have like 10 variations to each of those covers. There's a foil, a prismatic, a virgin, hyper prismatic metal, whatever it is. It's kind of crazy that those
nothing shows that more if you go to Cover Price. And like, here's the week of I think just this week coming up, new releases for the May 28th. Standard covers 105. If we show the variants, it jumps up to 578. So you can do that every single week, and it's always like 300 to 400 variants on top of the standard covers. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's a fascinating market that we're in. I should actually probably even go to our main page here. Yeah, do you have it, John? Do you have it open?
Yeah. Where do you want to go to?
Just to the homepage. Yeah. If you take a look at our top 10, this is another conversation. It pops up probably. Now I'm going to get more of it as I say it out loud. But probably every month or two, I get like, hey, can we do a top 10 that has no variants on it? And it's like, I'm like, I respond, I can, but it's going to be boring. Like it's going to be the same. It's going to kind of be the same stuff that you kind of see every other week. It'll be Spawn in the top 10 always. It'll be Spider-Man 300 in the top 10 always. This is the whole point of a top 10 is what's trending in the market. And literally there are some more hot variants on there, but they didn't make it because there was only 2 or 3 of them sold in the aftermarket. Not quite a trend, right? But these are all books that were extremely hot last week. And you can see Battle Beast finally showed up at #1 for his first appearances. I mean, that sold for an all-time high. What does it say right underneath it? It was like
Battle Beast is this one? No.
Yeah, it says the price right underneath. I can't see it.
It's like $20 right there. But
what was that?
20?
No, under #1.
Oh, what am I thinking? Oh, I'm sorry, 1,000. That's a lot more. 1,300.
1,300. Yeah, it just hit 1,300 at 9.8 last week. Yeah.
By the way, Clutch, when you did Battle Beast, I love Battle Beast. He's like one of my. He's just this dude who just wants fighting. That's all he wants. He's a great character.
I mean, but yeah, his final. I mean, it took literally his own solo, series for it to jump up. I mean, Near Mint Raws. I'm talking 9.2s and 9.4s, not even 9.6s. They're 500 plus. So
a steal on my stream last week. Then, jeez.
Yeah, how much did it sell for?
I think I sold a 9.8 on eBay Live for like it maybe went for like 700.
Oh, for a 9.8.
9.8, and it was signed too on the stream.
Oh man, that was one heck of a deal. Yeah, 1925.
People were spending so much money on the packs. I think that they were surprised that there was like a 9.8 sign book in there. So that's crazy.
Man, they were caught sleeping on that.
I know.
Just the other day, it went for 1,300. Yeah. Dang.
I mean,
Wow.
And what's fascinating to me is that when you're talking about, this is maybe a topic for another show, is content. But usually content is doesn't move a book after one season. It barely moves a book during the first season. It's usually up until that first season, the trailer, and then as soon as the show starts, you see it die. But this is one of those examples that kind of like what we're 4 seasons and 3 seasons down, three seasons down, and it's never been hotter, right? It's still on fire. I know Invincible 1 may have dropped a little bit, but all these other issues, literally everything from 1 to was 138, 140 issues.
144, yeah.
144. All these random issues are just taken off. And they're like these minor key issues here and there. And all these second prints are hyper valuable. I saw that Wanted Comics shared a giant pack of sealed second prints for it. He just goes digging in his little warehouse of fun. And
yeah, Drew's got a crazy warehouse.
It makes me incredibly jealous.
I told him to put me in his will. So
it's like the rest of us are digging. He's just like goes digging and he's like, "Oh yeah, I only found like 30 of them." Yeah, that's true. So yeah, it's a big conversation. Aside from content and aside from Invincible, if you kind of go back to that tab, we kind of look at just variants. Variants move the market for a variety of reasons. And we're kind of gonna go into those a little bit on the show today, or a lot on the show. Specifically talking, Mike Clutch is a perfect one to have on here, is because he worked for Skybound for like how long? Like 15 years?
So 12. I was there for 12 years. Yeah,
12 years. And now you're on your own as a retailer, working with like eBay Live and a bunch of other publishers, especially Skybound still. And so you now have a really unique perspective on the variant market, specifically how it works, how it worked as a publisher, and how it did for you, that business, and then now individually, like how does it keep you alive, like in your current job?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And it's weird too to see it from this side as the retailer and know that like. When you go into it, it's like it's a big process to do, right? To create variants, come up with the idea that you want to do, get it approved, get the artist on board, and then it's expensive paying for the artist. Then you got to pay for you're paying for the books.
Take us through that experience. Let's say, you have different levels. What's that, John?
I was say before you do, why don't we tell people what they're going to win if they stick to the end of this thing?
Oh yeah, this is pretty good. We told them not to do it because this is a little too much. But He was like,
Damn. So
these
Clutch is being generous. What's that going for right now? Like $400 or so?
it's like one recent sold for like $450.
Yeah. So that is the blind bag. What was some of the cool incentive stuff that was inside?
You can find it on the website. We have them all.
Yeah, you guys. That was one of the best things too, because when Matt and I talked early on, he's like, we'd love to. Can we do you have scans of all the sketch covers? I was like, yeah, dude. And so I sent over, all 26, 27 scans, and so there were 27 different sketch covers. There was like 100 signed books. There's an issue number 1 that's still floating out there somewhere. We put together a couple of God packs, which had the Pete Carroll foil.
Yeah, $500 for a recent one. That's crazy.
Had a Pete Carroll foil, had a 1 in 1,000 Battle Beast, plus it had they had the Ryan Otley sketch cover in there too. So
did anyone pull that Mike Choi one? That was the last minute ad.
They pulled it on my stream because the Mike Choi, that was a funny one because like Mike's came in late. We had tried to get it at a show and it just didn't connect, and so he had to mail it to me. And so he mailed it to me. I think it arrived like the day before I did my Sunday stream. We showed it on Friday or Saturday, and so I was like, all right, I'm going to put it together. So I put it together in the packs that I had left over for my Sunday stream, and so it was really cool. We ended up having 3 sketch covers get pulled on that stream. Whoa. Because one person from the Wednesday night stream had
pay, right? I saw that live.
They canceled their order. And then, so I was like, okay, like I didn't crack open your pack, and I said, sure. And then the person who was the second, we ran at the second auction, and it turned out to be the Ryan Stegman cover. So the guy had, it was awesome.
And just if you're trying to figure out what all the blank covers are, so if you're looking for the blank covers, so Battle Beast number 1 in the regular packs, the packs that sell for about $20-$30. Those packs have a 1 in 2,000. Mostly, I think they're all drawn by Otley.
Yeah,
and they're all, they're all different. But we decided to put them in as one sale because we knew it was going to be impossible to track them all independently. And plus, they all go for about the same price, anyways, which is about $1,600 ungraded. Now, but in these gold packs that you put together, there's, just so people understand, there's Invincible number 1s, 111, they're scattered across numerous issues. So if you go to, you're not going to find them under Battle Beast 1. You'll find some underneath the gold packs that John showed before, but they're going to be scattered about.
They were like Invincible 111s, Invincible 127s,
right,
128s,
right.
And then I think there may have been like 1 Invincible 12 Ryan Otley sketch variant too. So
right,
they're all mixed up.
Now, are we going to break this, or are we going to?
No, we're going to send it. We're going to send it sealed.
Oh, really? Unless the person wants to open them up.
I mean, if they want to open it up, we can open it up. Yeah, up to them. We'll let the winner choose.
But it would be cool to see it, because or you're going to have to let us know. You're going to have to email us and let us know what it is, because that's the thing that drives me nuts. So the reason why we wanted to track them all independently is because the one thing we tried to do is have a historical record of even the things that are one of ones, because no one would know that they exist in 10, 15, 20 years if we didn't somehow keep track of it in some visual proof.
Yeah, it helps out a ton too, because like I know a lot of people were the weekend of, we had a lot of text chains of different dudes on Instagram or text messages saying, hey, I found this one, or I saw this one get broken open and whatever. And it was funny because like McClay was actually, what's up, McClay? He's on the stream now. But
speak his name and he shall appear.
He was like, he's like, oh, there should be a way that we keep a track on, on like, it would have been cool to put like a little star or a check that has been like, it's being broken or something.
I mean, the one thing that we'll be able to add is in the future be able to share your collections, and so people will be able to see who has those. We can see on the back end when we go to it and see if anyone's added it to their collections.
Oh, that's cool.
So as people get it, we'll be able to see who does eventually have them.
We could probably do an event where we actually show them all and we do it live, and we'll just start checking it off live, like on the site or something, so that people can have like a bingo board or something of like
that'd be so fun.
That would be cool.
How does JSA, how does a sketch work if you send it into the CGC? Will JSA still, like, I know they do signatures, but this is a stupid question. Will they do sketches too?
I'm not sure what that process is. I know that you can, I don't know if they'll verify the sketch, but they'll verify the signature on there.
Now, did you offer anything, like sometimes in the past, like Boom has done this, where it'll come with a certificate that says this is authorized to be like graded by CGC for 3 months or whatever?
Yeah, didn't even think about trying that. It was such a whole thing getting this whole thing put together. It was just me. So
right.
It's something that kind of just slipped my mind, but maybe next time we could figure that out. And also, like, I didn't know how much of what the process was with CGC to kind of pull that together would be.
Sure.
So
I mean, it's probably would help in the future to prevent those fraud. There was a series of fraud issues where people that was crazy. I mean, granted, it was like one person specifically.
Yeah, that was pretty terrible this week. Earlier this week, right?
It was last week throughout the week.
Apology, guys. My camera just went out for no reason. I'll come back in. Have to reset. But you were going to talk about how the variant thing works and how getting comics into a blind bag and the whole exclude, like there's so many
just the overall process of creating a variant.
We can use this one as a good example too, because this was the Pete Carroll thing, right? So we needed a variant to anchor the project, and so ended up worked with, honestly, like McClay was the one who introduced me to Pete's art, and I was like, dude, this guy's amazing. Like, I want to find something to do with him, and then reached out to the artist and was like, hey, like, are you interested? And then at that point, you have to kind of pitch.
He's like, a professional cover? No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, he had never done any sort of comic work before too, which was kind of wild. So got lucky enough that the editors over at Skybound were like, yeah, this guy sounds like his art. He sounds great. So let's do it. And so we ended up, sorted out. And so you work with the artist, you figure out whatever their rate is, and you pay them their art rate to do the cover. And then you end up doing, you end up kind of building from there.
What's the average page rate, like, to do a cover? You don't have to say this isn't Carol's specific.
No. I think it depends per artist, right? So you can find some artists that'll do like 500 to 750. I know other artists are like, hey, my rate's 2,000 to 3,000 for a retailer variant,
right?
And a lot of the rates have increased, and I think Sean Hidako had posted a thing earlier this week just kind of talking about the whole economics of the entire situation and how, like, artists are seeing that their value is increased by doing these variants, and then the retailer goes off and makes, sometimes make a ton of money, right? It all depends, right? I'll admit I have variants that I've lost thousands of dollars on. I've got variants where I've broken even, and I've got some that I've sold out and done fairly okay. There's so much alchemy that goes into getting the thing to work perfectly. I'm still trying to figure it out, I'll admit. So but when you get to the point where you do it, and then you work with the publisher, you got your artist, you got your art, then you work with the publisher, and you're like, hey, like, what is, like, for anything I do with Image and Skybound, I always do the cardstock cover upgrade. Period. Like, the books are brilliant. It's an extra $500 to get it done. But then if you want to do trade dress, and then if you want to do a virgin, a foil, like those fees kind of add up there too. So you're every new thing you kind of add on, there's plate change fees, there's extra stuff, and it just kind of just ticks up and up and up. And then you've got to find, like, what's my break even point? Like, how much do I want to sell a book for? I've seen people like, this book is $40. It's like, holy smokes, like, that's a lot to do a variant. Like, I try to keep mine I want to keep it pretty tight. So between $20 to $30, I think is a good range. You know,
Okay.
I've talked to some retailers like, hey, if I'm not 4xing or 5xing my money, it's not worth me doing.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to ask for, you know, for customers to be like, hey man, can you shell out $40 for a variant cover? It's a lot, you know? And so I try to keep my prices lower, and I know that I've got to sell more copies to break even, but I think at the end of the day, it helps out with my customers who like to come to me and say, hey, I'm going to spend $25 to get these variants or whatever. I've done like when I do those Mark Spears, like we did the foils, and you know, that was a very low print run. I think it was like 350 print run. And so I was like, hey, like, I think Mark and I discussed, it was like, those should be a $40 book. And so we upped those to 40. So
it's interesting to learn about that, you know, the guesswork you have to do. One, you employ someone to do or commission them to do a cover, you pay them an X amount. One, you hope that it's good, right? Like, and that it's a great cover. And then two, you kind of have to debate, okay, is it a first issue? Okay, no brainer, we'll do a first issue. But when you get to like issue 10, is it worth doing? You know, and then especially that's when you especially have to have a really good cover. Yeah. And then you got to debate, you know, DC makes you do what, 1,000 now, Marvel's 3,000, right?
My God, and that's where, I mean, I will freely admit I have not jumped into either one of those pools yet, just because it's so much money, right?
Sure. Well, I was talking to a retailer who was working with Udon, right, and doing Street Fighter covers, and they're like, I'm not going to do it anymore. And I was like, why? They're such great covers. He's like, they make me do 700 when they're doing on their site. They're doing 200 to 300 exclusive, you know, for exclusives. Those are selling out, and we're kind of left like, there's a lot of Street Fighter collectors out there, but they're not showing up for the 700 print runs. They're only showing up for those low print runs.
Oh, dude, and especially now with guys like, you know, with you see Marat or Garrett, and you know, these guys are printing like, hey, there's 50 print run or 10 of a Magma or something like that, and guys who are, you know, collectors are like, hey man, I want just really low stuff, and so those are the ones that like.
Welcome back, John.
What's up, John?
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, good.
Great.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's something we all, you know, there's so much to talk about. One, we'll go into just the economy of aftermarket variants in the aftermarket itself. But like, it's interesting to me what Top Shelf and some of those companies are doing, because one, you could get the art and the turnaround, and we've talked to Michaels about the Do You Poo stuff. I'm like, I'm not a big Do You Poo fan, but like I talked to Murat about it, and he's like, I know, it's like it's I've been doing Poo books for 20 years, and
I think he said specifically, I found the cheat code of comics, right?
The cheat code of comics. Yeah. And it's true, because, and I was like, what was this, Sajad? Who's the artist that he usually works with a lot?
Sajad or Ryan Kincaid.
Yeah, Sajad. He was like, oh, they showed me like a Dodger cover that they did with Wanted, and they're like, we did this like 2 nights ago, and we got it printed yesterday, and like
they can do something pretty quickly, yeah.
And so like they get this fast turnaround time. They could print X amount. They could print 50. They could print 3. They could print 100. They could flip them for whatever price they think that they'll sell them for, whether it's $20, $30, $40. They know exactly that they're going to make a profit off of it. They know exactly that it'll move. And it's kind of, you know, people kind of, you know, thumb their nose at these kind of like homage-esque covers or off-the-grid brand covers, like Top Shelf is doing these fame books, or where they'll do a celebrity or a brand and do these you know, unofficial, unlicensed covers, and people are like, well, it's not a real thing, I don't want to buy it. But I mean, they're making so much money off of them, right?
It's interesting. Like Robert and I had talked years ago, you know, when we were doing a lot of the Walking Dead variants and stuff, because, you know, his original, you know, he originally was like, he's like, I don't want variants, you know, back in the day. He's like, no variants on my books, like, or if
issue
I do a variant,
50 was his first variant. He did a superhero variant. Issue 50 was the first time.
Oh yeah. He had done some of those too, but like for the most part, he's like, you know, when we would do, like, let's say if we did like Outcast #1, right? So when that sold out, you know, he wanted the second print we would just do a color change of the logo, because he wanted, the whole thing was like, if a person comes into a store and they see a book on the shelf, they want to see the same book and know like, hey, that's the book I missed getting. I'm going to pick up that book. So
Right.
try to carry that across. But as we kind of delved into it more, we realized like, hey, then like people are really like collecting these variants, are really buying stuff. And so, we kind of like, remember we were at a retailer function in New York that one of our breakfasts, and we talked about it. It was just like, with a bunch of retailers, and we're just like, hey, it's kind of like, people like to buy prints, and so basically you're just buying a print, but it's on a comic book. And so I think a lot of the stuff you see now, it's like, especially when you start talking about the Fame books or, all the tidal wave stuff or any of the stuff that Murat does or whatever, like they are buying that print, right? So it's an art that they did for this show. Instead of buying it on an 11 by 17, thing, you're buying a comic book version of it or whatever.
That's that's a great way to look at it. I could totally see that, because it does create an incentive. It does make people who are like, it takes your fandom to another level in a sense. Like, yeah, you could read the story, get the standard, but if you really know something about comics, like for years, like before we started Cover Price, I didn't know what incentives were. I mean, I was like, why do I go to the shelf and I see like the standard and I see, oh, there's one behind it that's like a weird one, or it's on the wall, and Matt had to explain to me many times what an incentive was. I never got it.
The historical reason for variants have always been to incentivize the store to order more. It was designed for the store to commit to a larger number of copies for their shelf in order to get this one special cover that they could hopefully charge a premium for. Now, in the early 2000s, 2010s, a 1 in 10 would cost you probably $6-7. It was still roughly around the price of the variant, but it was usually a little bit less. And for me, I'd always do the math. I'd be like, I'll buy the 1 in 10 instead of the regular cover because it was only $2 or $3 more. And the incentive was, it wasn't designed to really create an aftermarket demand. It was just simply to provide an alternative cover that might spike, a collector's interest. Now, over the past 10, 15 years, it's definitely turned into the thing that people want the most. Especially now with lower print runs, they're harder and harder to get, particularly between like, some of like DC or, there was a time when Image said no variants at all, right? There was a few years where they did that.
I remember those years, yes.
Those gloves are definitely off.
That changed very quickly.
Yeah, those gloves are definitely off. I mean, we'll kind of get into that a little bit too. It's fascinating on how it shifted. I've always been a variant collector. I've always loved variants, especially the harder to get ones, the harder to find ones, then the harder to find ones for artists that we love, like J. Scott Campbell, Adam Hughes, But the variant market is also what launched a lot of people's careers. Like McClay would remember back in like the G Plus days, we would share information and share like, hey, did you see this cover? Who's this Delato guy? Who's this Perillo guy? Who's this Stanley Art Germ Lau? Like, we would pay attention to start like sharing all these covers, and the next thing, we're buying everything they have. And then the next thing, those books are now no longer $1, $5 books, they're $20, $50 books. Then they're $100 books, and they keep going. Just because now we're, we were in the art buying market in the mid 2010s, and then the content boom took over. But now we're kind of in this weird everything gamut.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff that I don't think people listening might know about, like what goes into getting a variant. Like you were talking about working with artists and stuff, and I might have missed this. You guys might have already talked about this when my camera went out. But like, what does it take to like? I know DC, for example, has certain buy-ins that you get up to a certain point where you get like, eventually you can get a virgin, or you can get like a color or something or other. But
it's 1,000. They have 1,000 print run. Yeah. You could determine the split that you want, right? Clutch, is that correct?
No, I think it's like you have to do 1,000 of the one version, the main like trade dress version or whatever, and then you can add on. I think I'm not sure what the breakdown is beyond that. I know that like Marvel's like it's 3,000 for your A version, and then your B version could be like 1,000.
So that means the store has to order that. No, you as the person creating the exclusive have to order that many, or commission that many, or make that many.
Yeah, so basically, if I did like an A cover of Wolverine book, I've got to do 3,000 Wolverine trade dress. But then if I want to do a virgin, it's another 1,000. And then if I want to do a foil virgin, that's another 1,000. You know, and so like Marvel has like they definitely have the steepest curve. You know, DC changed theirs, I think just about a year ago, if not a little bit over a year ago, dropped theirs down to 1,000. Yeah. And so that's been a lot. That's been actually really good for a lot of retailers, because like now that, even though they drop their quantity, they raise their price per issue. So it's like $8 an issue to do 1,000. So but
the house always wins.
But you're also don't have to sit there on like 3,000 books that you spent 12,000 on. You're going to get 1,000 you spent 8,000 on, and so I think it helps.
And at the same time, if you have a Harley, Warren Liu does a Harley Quinn cover versus there's a top shelf cover, that you're going to get more people showing up for the Harley Quinn because it's a DC book with Harley on it, and Warren Liu has a following. Yeah. You'll sell those books pretty much like hotcakes. But
and I think you think you've got really cool stuff too, where you've got smaller, and this is why I like dealing with independent publishers or whatever. Like you can do different levels, right? So Skybound and Image have their different numbers, but then like you deal with someone with Dynamite, and they've got different tiers that you can do, or Vaults, and like I'm working with something like Mad Cave right now on Speed Racer for later this summer, and I think like they're like the minimum printing you can do is like 150 copies, and I'm like, that's amazing.
Some of their exclusives get as low as 50. I love Mad Cave because they keep their convention exclusives to like 50 for the print run. Yeah, it's crazy, and no one does that,
which is really cool.
So that is cool. So then what is the process? So you then have to reach out to the publisher, and then they give you a list of artists you can work with, or can you bring anybody in? Or?
That's a fantastic question, because like so if I'm doing like an independent one, so Image, like I can go say, hey dude, I got this dude Pete Carroll, I want to do a cover with him, whether it's the Exquisite Corpses with Pete Carroll as well.
Yeah, right. You have all the
available on BigClutch.com.
Everything queued up.
I could bring someone there, but if you work with someone like Marvel, like they're like, hey, you're like, hey, like I'd like to do a cover. They're like, okay, here's some artists that we have, or is there someone Marvel doesn't allow you as the retailer to talk to the artist. They keep that completely separate. So, and I think DC too, they don't want any collusion between you and whatever. So I know that stuff happens anyways. So it doesn't, they want to keep it all separate, right? Because they just don't want to gum up the works. And I think it's when you're dealing with process internally of like getting approvals and this and the other, they don't want to like mix it up. So
and you can't give like artistic direction if you're commissioning the thing.
You can tell them like, hey, I'd like something like this, and then I think they run with it. Like I'll admit I haven't done one. I've only heard through other retailers who've done it with them. So I haven't done it firsthand. So
and they're strict with homage covers. Some they'll let you do, and some they'll be like, no, you can't do this.
Yeah, I think there are definitely rules internally of like what they can or cannot do.
Oh, I wonder what those are, because I mean, it's like there seems to be a homage for like a lot of movie covers, but everyone's also doing like a Spawn 300 homage. So it's like I wonder.
Spider-Man 300. Yeah.
Spider-Man 300 homage. Like where is it easier to get a movie done, or is there IP that you have to be worried about, or is it easier to do a comic homage?
I would assume if it's something that they have, like if it's you're trying to homage another Marvel cover, I'm sure it'll be a little more. They'll be more open to it. I think that there's a lot of trepidation about trying to get into other. You don't want to tread too heavily on other IPs.
Yeah.
So here's one discussion, like how do you feel when you come into like Exquisite Corpses? There are already 39 variants, 40 covers for this book.
Yeah.
And so when you come in, do you feel competition? Do you feel the pressure? Do you get nervous when you hear a new cover announced? Because it does, like, you get to a point where it's really hard to get attention to your one cover if everyone's a similar style. I gotta imagine that it's got to be really frustrating to keep up on all of these covers, because when you get to a point, and here's what I've had a discussion with Tony Fleece about this. He went from Stray Dogs being ultra successful and people buying everything, but then when he went to Stray Dogs Dog Days, there were 75 variants for that book. And it went from people wanting to collect everything, from them not financially they couldn't even do it, let alone try to even get it. and then people just stopped collecting that book, and it just and the prices tanked as soon as Dog Days came out. The prices of Stray Dogs, the core series, plummeted. So it was like variants did have a negative impact when it got to such high volume. But
yeah, you walk a very fine line balancing it out. And I think, and honestly, like Tony and Trish with that book, like that was such a
lightning.
It was such like a warning cry to everybody. It's like, it's amazing as a creator to have that many stores jumping in your stuff. And dude, I mean, like Tony, I mean, that's a once in a lifetime event, and I'm glad he was able to get as much done there. But like,
well, I mean, that's the other thing, right? To keep in mind is that makes them more money. Every book that increases, that's straight up cash. They don't have to wait for that sale to happen.
Yeah.
They're just getting that bump.
Oh, that's a good point. So there's an incentive for the creator to, the creator of the comic, not the publisher.
If a store came to me and was like, "Hey, I want to do your book," I'm like, "All right, cool. As long as the cover doesn't suck, like I don't care. Like I will take your money." And then it's not, it's a good amount of money, but it's not like life changing. But when you do 70 variants, like that's a lot of stuff. And then with corpses, it's a good example. It's like, I think this is one of those very unique ones too, where it's like you've got Tynan. I think he's already kind of built this fan base who understands that there's going to be a lot of variants with all the Sick Tick stuff and House of Slaughter and all the stuff. He's World Tree, like they know that there's going to be a lot. So I think it was kind of like even myself going into this game, like I knew it was going to be a thing, but I talked to the folks at Tiny Young and early. And I was like, I knew a little bit about the series. I'm like, this sounds awesome. That I'm like, I'm going to do it anyways. And, and you look at here, like there's some amazing covers, man. Like, there's so many good ones. And it's like ones that I will collect as a fan myself. I bought like Billy's the other day from Economics and Comics. Like, so many cool ones. Like the Scotty Young one is great. The Jenny, but it's also like, it is tough to find that. How do you find that niche? And I think, when I approached Pete to do the cover, I was like, hey dude, like I don't think I've told anybody, I may have alluded to it, but like we're actually doing a series of covers. So of all the killers. Cool. So hopefully we'll get through all 13. It depends on how psychotic I get. I think we're committed through the first 6. And so we're gonna put up issue number 2 for pre-sale tomorrow.
And that's a whole other thing is the strategy. Like, how do you choose to do something like 13 covers for a single, series? Like I bet, like, I mean, standard, stores have inventory that they invest in, they bring in and they have it, and they try to sell it, and that's how they make it. But from a strategic standpoint, like, how do you choose what's going to be hot? How do you choose or like figure out what you want to invest in?
Yeah. I mean, on my end, this one was really interesting because like, with Pete, I was like, hey, like, I adore Pete as a human being and also as an artist. And I was like, if we can do this as a series, if we can make these, he had the idea is like, let's do this type of, back to them and like a back profile. I was like, I love it. And it was like, I saw it visually. I'm like, I would love seeing this on, if I had these all on a shelf, that would look really cool. So
does every artist want a Tyler Kirkham Battle Damage that they could just, have a thing for every book? Not knocking that Battle Damage. You just it's a thing, right?
I think honestly it is, and so my buddy John Jesperson, JJ's Comics and Art, like he and I, we kind of fell in love with Pete's stuff too after Brian hooked us up, and it was like, dude, like I want to kind of, and Pete does this style. He does a white background. It's just kind of a portrait of the characters, and so like let's just kind of make this your thing. And so we're just keeping this through. We're not going to ask him to change his style up or whatever. And would love to, if it became like his calling card, like this is his style of art, it'd be awesome. Yeah. But for these ones, we're going to just keep rolling. So.
I mean, so 3 Covers says like, he says most exclusives lose value pretty quickly.
Oh yeah.
It does get to, so, I mean, here's the thing about this. There's always 1 or 2 covers that outperforms the rest. There's always one that will have a hyper value and the rest may not. And it's not always clear what that will be. Sometimes it's down to rarity. Sometimes it's down to demand. And you don't know, and sometimes maybe they'll all jump down, but then they bounce back up around content or series gets picked up. I won't. We've seen enough covers moving in the back end of books that are 20, 30 years old that were considered trash comics that are now $100, $200, $300 books. All the stuff that Scotty Young did at the beginning of his career they're like every single book that were like dollar books for the longest time are now $200, $300 books. I mean, granted that's connected to Scotty Young, but again, I mean, you guys, this is announcing often first, like a lot of early work from like brand new artists.
Oh, dude, we were one of my buddies, JC. We were talking. It's like, you look at guys like Godtail, who's kind of like starting to find a moment, and he was like, "Hey, did you see this and this?" And like he sent over these like links of like you can still find his early work available on a couple stores, and I'm like, oh my god. So I ordered some of his early stuff, and so it's kind of really cool to see as an artist, like you said with Scotty or whatever, someone who blows up, you can go find their older stuff and kind of build that out there. But I think Three Wars is right. Like there is a point where the stuff just comes, if you go back to the Dog Days stuff, it's just like yeah, dude, that stuff is cover price now. It's from 20 or $25, it's now $3 or $4 or whatever. Like there's no real resale value on that stuff. But I do think that it's all about finding the fans who do like it and who like, all right, cool, I'm gonna click with this, and you just roll with it. But
what will happen is that give it 5-10 years, a bunch of those covers will then be sought after. It always happens.
You hope so.
So like it'll be worth, and you never know. And so like, for example, we were talking to Night of Comics, because right now we're actually building our Fan Expo Dallas list. Here's a little preview. We're actually going to be announcing secret drops. So we'll have these mystery covers. And
this is the first time we're actually putting big question marks on the images there.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'll tell you when to look forward to the drops, but we can't share the graphics because they're, but basically you'll be able to, this goes out tomorrow. But already, let's see, they're working on them now. Let's refresh this list and see if it's increased while they're working on it. So, 239. Okay. So right now we're at 239. I expect it's around 350 is what the total number is looking for Fan Expo Dallas right now.
And the worst thing about these places is that like all the convention, like San Diego, Reed Pop, Fan Expo, they have a page for retailers to put their exclusives on, and no one does it.
15. Yeah, there's like 15 on
and so we actually reach out to all of them. We're like, hey, we have a list. Do you want to? And they're like, no, unless you pay us, we won't show.
Well, no, they're like, no, our job is to get people in the convention. We don't care about celebrating them. Anyways, there was like, a lot of like, for example, we were talking to Katya. She's a new artist, Katya Sanyukina. She's done a lot of great covers, but this this was her first.
Oh, nice.
And so I was just literally adding that little feature. This is from 2024, but she's an artist that's been doing a lot of. She's definitely an artist to watch. But I was like, oh, that's her first. I'm like, holy crap, what a great cover to start off. But again, this book you can find it for $20-$30 right now. Like, and it doesn't have any value, but who knows what Katya's future looks like? Like Suspiria, you could have bought a Suspiria cover for years. And then all it took was Profane #4 for some reason to like really launch, people to pay attention to her. There was, I know McClay, if McClay's still there, I got to show this one, but this was something we were talking to Zerdy, and I know Zerdy was on with you guys a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I was asking him the same question that you guys were asking him on the show. I was like, what is your first cover? And he said it was this. His manager finally sent it to me. This is his first work. Now this was a commission that this creator asked him to do, and he put it as the cover of this book. There's not a single sale, not one sale on eBay, because no one knew about it, no one cared about it. And I think there was a site when we found this cover, they were $3 a piece on their site. So
I think it's like, Brian has a really great list on his that he kind of runs of this like creator first and whatever. Right. So sometimes you just don't know, it's like I would have never even I've never heard of this book in the first place. And so
no, you wouldn't. You would never know about it. You would never. It's amazing what some of these professional artists, what their first work is, and all it does is just enhance. As a collector, you want this stuff. You want that rare stuff to like go seek out. Yeah, we do. I mean, it's funny because Brian and I, we all have the same interests. We all love the same stuff. We're following the same artists. We're celebrating the same artists. You can even talk to Mark Spears wasn't a name until a year ago, right? And now you saw like that line that he had that you were there for, right? You were, it was
the Huntsville, yeah.
The Huntsville line was insane. The amount of books that he was doing, the people that were there to celebrate him and were thrilled to be there. And I mean, it's just such an amazing thing. Most artists' first work is undervalued. That's 1,000%.
You make a good point, Matt, that like a lot of these artists get their break with a variant, not a standard cover. They get it with a variant.
And that's the stuff to pay attention to. Where is it? We had in our Shaker report last week, we had this Sveta Shubina. This wasn't her first cover. This was her second cover, and it sold for $250 raw.
Jeez.
And this was a variant. This was a variant from Source Point, a 1 in 10, an incentive ratio. You could have probably bought it for $20 for the longest time.
What's the title and the number of the book?
Curse of Cleaver County #3. The 1 in 10. But here's her first one, was just you wouldn't even connect the dots.
Oh yeah.
This was her. But this is her first. Again, we haven't seen a single sale for this one yet. Because it's not even out there. Like if you even look on eBay, there's like usually none out there. Yeah, I've never seen one pop up in quite a long time. But yeah, this is her first professional work. I mean, again, this was a store exclusive. Comic Boards Inc. This wasn't even like a very huge name store. This was just some smaller store that wanted to do a cover and chose Source Point because they have a lower entry point where they could do 250 copies.
Yeah, that's awesome. James Creder earlier mentioned, like he said, like store variants and Zenoscope are like the AAA league for upcoming artists and stuff. It's true. Like you see, people, it's like a person who's a fan of an artist on Instagram or whatever is like, hey, do you want to do a cover? And you find a way to put that out there. Or like, look, Zenoscope, Dynamite, a lot of these guys have done a great job. Like Boom's done a great job of finding cool artists to work with too. Like, I think it's the fun stuff, and then, after a year they get, they start doing Marvel covers or whatever, and it's pretty great.
And like, I was a fan of Tahani Farr, and so she was charging $200 for commission or $150 for a full art commission. And I was like, you need to charge more. And so I paid her $350 to do this one with She-Ra. Like
Matt talked her up before he bought it.
No, I said you need to charge more, and I was like, and then she charged me $350. But again, I was like, you need to sell your art for more. But again, this is the fun of like, you get some of these new artists, and you get a chance to buy some original art for them while they're starting off. And I mean, those are the opportunities when you talk about variants. But aside from that, that's kind of the positive side. There's the negative and positive side of these store variants. Is you get to gamble on early art, right? And also some covers that might take off in the long term. But like, it's important to remember that variants are a vital part of the ecosystem because it does get stores to still order more. So if you really want one, definitely tell your shops that you want a particular cover, because they might just be an issue or two away from being able to get that book, and they can just be like, you just need to pay an extra $6 to get this cover, and you'd be like, okay, no problem.
And that's why FOC is so important.
That's why FOC is so important right now. It's the new comic book day.
Look at it. It really is the new comic book day.
And it's part of the conversation. So, and then what it does is it helps get people into shops. It helps get people looking for these covers. It helps give a boost to the aftermarket. It allows people, for those that find it and it goes up in value, to then be able to sell it and then buy more comic books with that cash. So like you talk about variants, or people that say, I wish there was no more variants. It's like wishing for the death of comics if you say no more variants. It's such an important, integral part of this ecosystem that you can't eliminate. You can say you're tired of of 700, 300 variants for these.
Or the same thing done in different shades of color. Yeah.
but what's nice about this, so like now when we do these lists, what I do, and I know a lot of people do, you create a shopping list. You know exactly how much it's going to cost, you know where it's going to be, you know what covers you want to buy ahead of time, so you can create a budget and and you won't ever stick to it, but like you'll buy more stuff when you get there. But the thing is, there will be something in this list that you'll want to get. And I know when we do these lists, there's always something that I wish I could buy. Like that makes me get frustrated that I'm not at the convention because there's a cover I want.
It's super dangerous. We're almost up at the hour. Clutch, do you want to hold the prize for tonight? And I'll go ahead and put this up. If you guys want to be entered to win this amazing blind bag that Clutch put together with all the amazing. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. I cut it off just to show the picture.
Yeah. How do I do it? What do I do?
It's just you.
Yeah. How do you highlight it?
There you go. You can just do that. Type in hashtag. Oh, there you go.
Done. Yeah.
Hashtag Clutch. And honestly, this one really took off. It was so fun. It was fun to watch all the breaking of it. If whoever wins, if you do want, you can like message here and we can break it if you want, or we'll send it.
I almost bought one from you 3 times. I was like, I was watching the live stream and I was like, should I? No. Should I? No. I mean, because it's kind of funny. I love gambling, which is why dabbling in sports cards was the most addictive thing I've ever experienced in my life. Like breaking packs became an addiction. Buying into pack breaks was an addiction. And so I saw this pack, and getting one of those sketch covers was so much of a draw that $300.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting week with the comic packs and with the Skybound blind bags, which was like, it was wild to see like the Skybound blind bags like being auctioned for, that first night they were going for $40 or $50 a pack, which is like crazy because I'm like, it's a $4 pack, right? Yeah, it's a $4 blind bag. Like it shouldn't, like it's meant to be $4. It's not meant to be $50 or $30 or $20 even, but it's meant to be $4. And so,
but all those books are $20, $30 that are in them. Most of for a lot of it.
Yeah. But I think at the time, but it's also like the first day, no one really knew. Certain retailers who were a part of the early. The Skybound retailer call where we knew what was in those bags. Like we knew that there was like those, the Marvel team up was in there. We knew the Battle Beast 2, we knew the Invisible 19 reprint, and that we're in those packs, but like no one else knew. And so when people got them and they like ripped them that night, I think that, the fans, customers, collectors, no one knew. No one had any idea. They're like, oh my God, I got this Spider-Man book in here. What the heck? And then I think as you saw it open up, you're like, oh shoot, there's a lot of these. They're not as rare as you would think, especially when there's, I would assume, 150,000 freaking, bags out there, if not more, so there's a lot of those issues out there. So,
I mean, what was fun about this, and I'm not trying to purposely hype it up, I really did enjoy watching it, was, the Whatnot bags were fun because you got the gamble, but they were all the same books for the most part, but just different cover treatments. The fun gamble of it was not so much those books. Like, I'm not a huge Battle Beast fan. Like, I'm not a bit. He's great, but I'm like, but I wanted that rare cover, and that was enough to draw me in. Wasn't necessarily the covers, but I wanted that really rare one. So that was what was luring it in for me, and it really reminded me of the Harley Quinn Black Book stuff that DC did when they infused a bunch of original art in those blind packs, and those were also $4.99. But you can get, I think there was, I forget what artists were doing them, but there were some very notable artists creating these original covers, and the fact that you all had an equal chance to pull one of them was I think I bought 10 of them.
Now, how does that work when you're making these and putting it in there? do you just shuffle them all up? Like, how do you like lose track of like where the expensive? I mean, I'd be like always just knowing. I'm like, it's over there. I know it's in that pile. You know, how do you mix it up?
The ones that I made, or just are you talking in general when they do
No,
the
the ones that you made? Yeah, how did you make it kind of like fair?
And like Matt was saying, like I had a very weird period of time in that 2019-2020 basketball season where I was chasing Zions and Jaws.
That was the year I got into sports fans of the 2019.
I think I did so many breaks that year. I don't even want to know how much I spent. Shout out to Jaspy's case breaks.
Oh, that's what I was breaking. I was going into all those Jaspy card breaks too.
Jaspy's, man.
But that was before that season started. They had that giant pull, right? Remember the MLB multi pack?
Yes, yeah.
Where it was like every signature was. If you guys have not seen that pack, look up Jaspy's cards.
Like 50. There was 50 autographs on it, I think.
Yeah, they said it was worth, I think, 1.5 million at the end of it. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
They also had like a massive Conor McGregor. No, not Conor McGregor. Who's Conor McDavid? Like RPA, like early on that sold for a crazy amount of money too. Like they've done Joe over there is my favorite breaker.
Joe's great. Yeah.
But yeah, they're massive. But so when I put these packs together, I thought about, breaking packs, right? And I'm also a big Magic the Gathering guy. So it was really thought about how do you do, how do you put packs together? So it's like there was, you had I had my 2 Pete Carrolls. So there was like a trade dress in the Virgin. So that's a guaranteed in there. Then I had 1,000 or actually 1,200. I from Skybound. I bought. They helped because Skybound was very integral in making this happen. So they allowed me to get basically the contents of 1,200. It turned out to be 1,000 because there was a little clerical error, but I had the contents of 1,000 of the blind bags, and so whatever ratio those books were in the blind bags, they gave them to me. So like I had, there's 10 1 in 100s, and there was 20 1 in 50s. Right. One, they actually gave me a second one, but we had 2 1 in 1,000s, and then so I had those to break out with all the Marvel team ups or whatever, and then so I had those 2. And then the third book, which was like the crazy one, which was like the weirdly enough to say, but like pulled books from Robert Kirkman's warehouse and put those in.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. Yeah,
that was a crazy thing. We weren't going to tell anybody until he showed up on that stream. Was like, do they know? And I'm like, no, because I'm not going to tell them because you didn't want me to tell them. And he's like, well, tell them. I'm like, okay, sure. These are your books. So
I want to imagine that some had like some like cheese, not like Doritos dust on one because they're like he read every single one.
And I tried to, and I of course like went through and dug and I we had for the most part I basically pulled like 5 of every issue for the most part of the early ones were a little harder to pull in. There was one issue number 1 that was thrown in there, which was from my collection.
Yeah, I heard that.
There was a couple number 2s and some other low stuff, and then so when I put it together, John, I ended up having I had just tiers, right? So it said, okay, these are like S tier books that are like the sketches, and then sketches at the top, and the sign books, and then like the expensive books. And there was like another couple tiers too. Then as you got down to the non-keys that are like sub $20, which is at this point, there's like the lowest price. I feel like the lowest price Invisible book is $20. It's like you're not going to find them at a show for less than that, right? Yeah. So I just basically gave myself tiers. I broke them out, and then I just mix, and I try to I had different sections, and then when we sent them to the eBay Live sellers, I made basically a pack of 10 of those packs, and so within that, I broke them out there's going to have more of the common ones, the uncommons, the rare, and then the mythic. If you're thinking about like a pack of like magic cards or whatever. So out of every 10, you had one like top tier, whether it's a signed book or a sketchbook, and then broke down from there.
Wow.
And then the God pack is
and then the God packs, which were like the Ryan Utley sketch, the 1 in 1,000, and the foil Pete Carroll, which were
those are fun.
And only one of those has been pulled on screen. So I think Webster's Vault had pulled one of those.
Well, this one's clearly a God pack that you're showing tonight. So
yeah,
I mean, that would be kind of ridiculous because that would be awesome. But I'd be like, holy sheesh! How did I not?
I gave this away.
well, let's run it.
Do it.
So we do have a little extra time to do that. And I wanted to show this real quick as John's pulling that up. Was you were talking about Walking Dead had no variants. It currently now, even though it had no variants to start with, now 248 variants for Walking Dead #1.
I will take a lot of that blame because when we did the Wizard World project with Peter over there back in the day, where we're just like, hey, do you want to do variants for every we did 2 years in a row, we had a different Walking Dead #1 variant for each Wizard World show.
Right.
So they were doing like 20 shows a year, and they would do like a regular and then a sketch version. So we did all those, and then when we did Robert did the 15th anniversary, we went to stores. There was like 100 different stores took part in that.
But some of these have been going up in price. Like there were some that I saw recently sold for like $100.
Yeah, there's a couple that actually were like kind of canceled. Or they actually did not make it to the store because they for whatever reason, like their account went, they were in the red or whatever. So
interesting.
Yeah, Derek, blame it on Clutch. I did feel like when we were, I mean, look at those Wizard World ones that you just got to there. Like once we started doing, like there's Neil Adams, and then like we had Arthur Studham and Dean Haspiel, like there were so many different ones, and then like we just once we ripped it off, we're just like, F it, let's go.
Right. You were deep into that. Well, by that point, you're just
like going.
So
there was like the Portland second print, which was like a crazy thing too. So
that's awesome.
It's crazy.
If you haven't entered yet, type in hashtag Clutch into the comments to enter. We have only 40 people, and we have like 61 people watching right now, so that's cool. But also, I wanted to, Matt, do you mind if I steal the screen for a second?
Yeah, I'll take it. I was just like, this was one book that I wish I did enjoy, this Kentucky.
Oh, the Cynthiana one? Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice because it does stand out from, it really calls out the first issue really well. Yeah, go for it. Done.
All right. Just to call out, if you guys haven't checked out Clutch's website, I posted it in the chat. But a lot of fun stuff to do here.
I have to upgrade that. I have not updated it on my back end. So
I'm going rogue. I'm just showing all your stuff.
Appreciate it. Go for it.
I mean, as we go through, the big question is, and it's an obvious answer, but this was so successful for Battle Beast. I talked to Image and I was like, was this a success? They're like, crazy success.
Yeah.
So the fact is, we're probably going to see a lot more of these blind backs, at least for launches, right? I mean,
I would assume so. And it's also crazy too, like the same day that Exquisite Corpse had their cover C, which was the one that came with the trading card, and people I know stores absolutely ordered that one.
For sure.
Again, weirdly enough, if you're a retailer out there and you get an invite to an Image Comics like retailer call, take it. Go find that time, get that hour.
Just do it.
Tell you, they told that they're like, hey, we're gonna put a trading card in there, and Walsh was like, yeah, and then there's gonna be a foil variant in there. I'm like, okay, cool. So I was like, I ordered a ton of them. And
we've heard from retailers who said that they don't have time to order anything other than Marvel DC. And we're like, well, we have actually a partner portal where you can download it into your site within 10-15 minutes. And so they're like, it has changed a lot of people, the way that people do business, because now they're able to get that stuff in before FOC and get people to order that stuff before it's due. And then you're like, oh, it really amplified their business because now they can order all this extra stuff. So it's like, as a retailer, you got to, the money's out there. You just got to do a little extra legwork.
Yeah, it is crazy. And it's, I think we're going to quickly find a lot of those shops that were just like too lazy because I only order Marvel or DC. Like we're in that this whole weird spot with Diamond kind of going away. And then like now we got Lunar and Penguin Random House. Like a lot of those like little guys that you were looking for aren't necessarily going to be there. I know that there's like another, There's another small publisher distributor that's coming into the market that's got, they're going to be working with like Zenoscope and Dynamite and Coffin or whatever, and which is awesome, but it's going to be a weird thing. But if you're not looking at all the stuff, like that's why I would always dig in the back of Diamond catalog previews, because you want to see what's the other stuff. Like if you're a store and you're not doing that, you're doing yourself a big disservice. And I know it's extra work or whatever and whatever, but like, dude, take the time to do this. Like find out what's up. And honestly, if you go to Cover Price, like, when we're on the stream on Wednesdays or Fridays, like we page by page, we scroll through your guys' FOC list on FOC.
No, I've seen it. Yeah, and we've tried to create that page specifically for McClay.
I will literally. I have my lunar order up, and I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that one. I'll add it to my order as we're going through the stream. Like it happens all the time.
It does you a great service because you're like, you get to see other people react to books that you may not have reacted the same way to, And that, I mean, as a retailer, it's important to watch like that McClay's channel because you get like real time. Oh wow, I really love that cover, or a cover like you're like, oh, that is a really good cover. Yeah. I wasn't gonna order any, but yeah, and especially like those low, like some of those Zenoscope ratios, or they're fantastic covers, and they get hot because there's none out there. It just makes a great opportunity if people really pay attention to
and it's fun because back in the day you'd go into your comic shop and talk about that stuff. It's like it's actually fun to see people do it, to talk about it, to get excited about some of these comics coming out.
All right, let's run it.
All right, here we go. And if you win, just reach out to info@coverprice.com and we'll connect you with Clutch.
And if you want to break it right here on the show, we'll break it right now.
And if you want us to break it, that's exciting. Here we go.
Wait, did I put my name in?
Yeah, Matt just wins. How weird.
I really want one.
I do too. All right. Rook Peace.
Rook.
Congratulations. My voice is gone. Where did that come from?
I got you.
If you watch Clutch's live streams on eBay, that thing's
it happens all the time.
Oh my god, I got to get one of those.
All right, Rook.
Rick
he
says
rip it. All right.
Rip it. All right, good man.
I'm good. I made
God pack.
By the way, I mean these bags are they're so good.
How do we put
it on me?
I know, how do we put Clutch on there? Right.
All right.
No, Matt.
Okay, go back to the 3. Go back to the 3.
Okay.
And then click on the ellipses, and you do solo layout like this.
You got the Battle Beast.
All right, nice.
That's a great Pete Carroll.
Yep.
You got the A cover.
Okay. All right.
And this I'm actually staring at the book right now, which is really good. Bamski.
Nice.
That is 115. This book has definitely gone up, and this is one of the best Battle Beast covers. Period.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
That's so cool.
Smoking on the secondary market.
That's
nice.
So cool.
Nice.
That's a good pack.
Congrats.
It ain't no God pack, but it's a good pack.
I'm because it's cool. I'm gonna throw in the foil.
Oh. Yeah, not many people get the set. You have to usually go to the aftermarket to go get that set. You're gonna
get both. And by the way, like these have been like the secondary market on these has been kind of crazy. So yeah, you're gonna get all 4.
There you go. Hey, good job, Brooke.
Well, reach out to info@coverprice.com or just me directly, john@coverprice.com, and we'll connect you with Clutch. And thanks, Clutch. I mean, that's so cool of you to do, man. That is like honestly such a thrill to have you on the show, and also just to talk comics and everything. I mean, it always goes by too fast.
We didn't scratch this. We didn't even get to the published side of things of like how variants helped you as a publisher.
Anytime you guys want me to come on, like I would love to chat with you guys, and like Greg Hopkins is in here too from Boom. Like he's another great guy to talk about this stuff because he does a lot of that publisher size.
Yeah, and Boom's been doing a lot of like I keep telling people, I'm like, stop sleeping on Boom's incentives because some of these print runs on these books are crazy low, and I don't think people understand like those Labyrinth covers, like the Florentino, and I mean they are producing. They have some of the best artists on their incentives, and they're just flying under the radar. And it drives me nuts. And we keep trying to shake that tree a little bit. It's just, don't sleep on those boom exclusives.
Shout out to Greg.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and happy Memorial Day to everybody watching. Thank you. You guys make the show. We had a great turnout tonight. I didn't know who was going to show up because I'm like, it's a holiday. People are just kind of tired. Clutch.
We didn't even like show off that we were giving away one of those packs, which So,
did you guys?
It went to the loyal people, the people that are here every week. So,
yeah,
I love it.
Clutch brings the audience.
Thank you for bringing that, Clutch. That was a nice surprise.
Absolutely, man. I'm just glad to do it. Yeah, I don't have many left, but it was cool here. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm doing for Dallas yet. I know that Comic Sketch Art is going to have some. Okay. They're doing a stream with Ryan Otley, and Skeff is going to host Ryan Otley, and they're going to do a bunch of those. And I think Drew, I think One in Comics is going to have some too, and I think he's going to get Ryan Otley to sign the books for free, I think. So if you buy one of his packs at the show, you'll get one of the.
Well, some of the thoughts. A lot of people hold these packs for a number of years because if you don't see those, that was that we both did a blind pack. It was, I forget who did it, but it was like there was a Cho, an Otley, and a Brooks blind box, and it was the buy-in was $250, but there were like original pages in the boxes.
The Comic Sketch Art dudes, they do crazy boxes. Yeah, dude.
My box I paid $250 for. I got nothing.
Matt was so mad. I got a remark from Otley on it, which was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mine was a complete bust. It was like I got some signed books, but they're all books I had. And none of them really had big aftermarket value. If there was a not God pack, if there was a devil pack, I got the devil pack.
It happens.
Yeah, it does happen. But man, I mean that's the fun of these blind packs is like but it does hurt because I was moping around for 2 days straight.
Yeah, and I was like, why did I do that? I should have done that.
So stupid. Why did I do that?
But on that note,
right.
Happy Memorial Day, Clutch. Anything you want to talk about before we cancel the show?
This coming Saturday, so Fan Expo Dallas, I'm going to be at Fan Expo doing an eBay live show for Fan Expo, basically. So we're going to have 3 artists on there. We're going to have John Jang, Sajjad Shah, and Miko Suyan. And so we'll be doing a 2-hour stream, like offering up variants and stuff from the show that Fan Expo has there. We're going to have the artists come on there, do some signatures and some remarks or whatever. So it's going to be a good show.
Big Time Collectibles is letting Miko out of their booth for a little bit.
You know what? Like we had to like call in a favor, so yeah.
And I've been trying to message
very begrudgingly so.
That's funny. That'll be a fun con. I'm disappointed that we won't be able to go. We will be doing a live stream with you, Clutch, again for San Diego. And it looks like we'll probably be aiming at just a straight charity for Comics for Kids, which will be the charity that a lot of the stuff will focus on moving forward.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun one. Again, it'll be the hyper-focused books at the convention that we'll track down.
And we'll advertise it, make sure everybody knows about it, so you guys can all take part in it. How about you?
Derek Neiman said, I got a sheet of like Burger King coupons that expired. That would probably have been more valuable than the stuff that
I got. Wah, wah.
Because you could probably still take those and they'd be like, all right, we'll fulfill it. We feel sad.
Any final words from you, Matt?
No, it was a fun. I mean, like, again, the variant conversation, we didn't even tap into all the things like in terms of like the ecosystem of on a retailer side, which is what we were hoping to get into. But, it's just trying to paint a bigger picture of, we didn't even get into the ecosystem of what Top Shelf does for new artists and artists that are not even known at all. It gives all these people entry points. There's so much we didn't cover. It makes, we got to do this again.
It's what makes comics interesting. There's so many different like sidelines and side stories and like so many crazy conversations around variants over the years that we've heard from retailers and like creators and like this shipped out there, but I never got my comps, and then this person sold it. And like just there's so many kind of crazy stuff that happens in this.
And they're not going away anytime soon. Yeah. So you kind of have to make your peace with the ones that you don't like and lean into the ones you do. And if you really love something, celebrate it. Tell people, tell publishers that you really loved something that they did, whether it's based off an artist or how they handled a ratio, or they didn't do it. It's a Virgin. Marvel's doing these Virgin 1/100s, which drives everyone nuts. But just talk to your retailers or talk to your publishers and let them know what you love, because that's the feedback they're dying for. They're itching for.
They really are. Yeah.
Let them know what you want, and they'll listen. So,
all right, guys. Thank you so much, Clutch, for joining. Everyone, thanks for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your holiday, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.